Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about how I wrote and published my first children's book. And it's called A Safe Place to Live. It's about my journey as a child refugee to Australia, first of all. And if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. It is all about creative businesses and how I've turned my art into a creative business. So I started off with this idea that I wanted to write a book to put my journey as a refugee in print. And I wanted this book for Christmas. I wanted to produce a Christmas present for my niece and my nephews and my children. They were 6 and 8 years old. Initially I just thought I'll just draw these, paint these pictures, make it into a book and print it at Officeworks. How hard can it be? Turn it into a picture book and voila, I've got my Christmas present. I knew nothing about illustrating and I'm a shocking writer. Can't spell and I can't do grammar and I'm a little bit dyslexic, but I really wanted to write this book. So I thought it needs some pictures. So I broke it up in 12 pages and I started painting the big pictures. And you could see in the background here, let me just tilt up the camera to show you one of my picture. There it is. It is quite large. So I will stand next to it. You can see how big it is. So this is me next to the picture. I just started painting big canvases, acrylic on canvas. I was inspired by an artist called Janine Dado. I saw her art at the Canterbury Art Show and she had painted these drawings of people with distorted faces, big heads, and really alien, foreign people, almost in a dreamlike scene. And I loved it because I thought it represented my story. Because I was only 4 when I escaped from Vietnam, and most of the memories that I had were borrowed memories, and they were all disjointed. So I just thought, that kind of style painting really reflects what I wanted to show in my pictures. So I took that and was inspired by that kind of style painting to paint the characters in my book. After painting these drawings, I then photographed them. I got a friend of mine who had a good camera to photograph the pictures, and then I just wrote really simple text to it. Like, for example, I'll show you one of the pages. There you go. So this book was published in 2011. A photograph of the pictures, I put writing to the pictures, I put it in a design package to make it into a book, and then I took the book. This book is quite large. I want it in this large format because I wanted, the pictures to be all about the picture and the art. And I took it to Officeworks to get it printed in a square, large format. It was coloured, so it was double-sided, 24-ish, 24, 26 pages. Cost me over $50 for each book to get printed and bounded. I thought, that's a lot of money for a book, and it doesn't leave me much left for any other Christmas presents for the niece and nephews. And I thought, how do people actually publish books and make a profit or keep the price down? So I started to email all the publishers. I emailed all the big ones and I got rejections after rejections. No one wanted it. They said, the pictures are, not too bad, but not great. Yeah, so I thought, how am I going to do this? So my husband at the time was working for this guy called Mike. Mike is an entrepreneur, also is a chair of a charity and really used to fundraising. And I thought, I'll pick his brains. I'll have a coffee with him, pick his brains and see how he would suggest that I, fundraise for this book or get someone to sponsor the book, because surely it's an interesting story. I brought my Officeworks spiral bounded copy to Mike, and we had a coffee, and he looked at my book and he said, Bic, this is an amazing story and I think it needs to get out in the world and people need to hear about it. So he said, I will pay for the printing of 2,000 books. So I started doing my research, asking people about how I could print it cheaply. Someone put me onto this company in China who did printing and bounding books. That was in my price range. It cost me about $6,000, and I got the book printed and published quite quickly. I had a friend who also, helped me edit it, some of the writing, and made it sound better than what I wrote. Took my mum and I, we went down to Altona where the delivery got sent by boat, and we transferred all the boxes, the 2,000 books, into the boot of my car and drove it home. I learned about delivery costs and import taxes, because if you order anything over $1,000 offshore, you have to pay import taxes. Yes, it was quite an experience, and I did learn a lot in that process of importing goods overseas. But still, I had these 2,000 books, and I thought, what am I going to do with 2,000 books? I mean, I don't have 2,000 friends. I have, if lucky, 20 friends that will buy my book, but not 2,000. And then someone suggested I do a book launch. And so I thought, yep, I'll do a book launch. I will talk to the primary school where my kids go. And they said, you could use our hall. So I thought, great, I can use their hall, and I need someone to launch this book. So I asked everyone. First I asked Malcolm Fraser, and he politely declined. He wrote me a nice little letter saying, congratulations on your book. I asked Andel, and he said no. He said it's something to do with management not liking him doing that kind of stuff. When I asked this children's book author called Hazel Edwards, someone put me onto her. They said, oh, she's quite a well-known author. So I emailed Hazel and I said, Hazel, I've got this book. It's about my journey as a child refugee to Australia, and I would love for you to launch it for me at Ashburton Primary School. And it just so happened that Hazel used to go to Ashburton Primary School, and I sent her the copy of my book, and she said, I love this book. It's really well done, and I would love to launch it. So Hazel came to Ashburton, to the hall, and launched my book. I then emailed out to all my contacts. The school also helped me by emailing, putting in the newsletters. I also contacted the Progress Leader, which is the local magazine in our area, and they gave me a little spread about the story. And it was, here it is. It's on the second page, and I also got a little picture on the front page. So that really helped, and that got a lot of people through. I got about 150 people to the launch, and I sold a lot of books that night. It so happened that Hazel Edwards that year was also on the chair of Premier's Reading Challenge. Oh my goodness, I am so shiny and sweaty because at the moment it is about 40 degrees here. But she was able to get my book into the Premier's reading list. And from then, all the schools in Australia and most of the libraries had to stock it because it was recommended on the Premier's Reading Challenge. I sold it to all the schools and the libraries. And then from there on, it snowballed, and I got into the front page of the Burwood Bulletin. Those are my kids there at the time. And I also got into the Herald Sun. I was persistent, I kept running into roadblocks, and people kept saying no to me, and I wouldn't take no for an answer because I really wanted it for that Christmas present. So, I kept asking questions until I got the right, the answer that I needed. I was also very lucky, so I guess it's 20% luck and 80% hard work. But the luck part of it was, that I was able to find Hazel, and she was able to get my book into the Premier's Reading Challenge. So that helped the sales of my book and the success of the book itself. In return for the sponsorship that Mike gave me for the book, I wrote a second book for him. It was about a little girl whose mum had AIDS, and she had her eye damaged because of domestic violence. And we launched that book as well at the school, and that also was then launched at the charity's cocktail party, and that raised over $25,000, and we used that money to fly the girl over to get plastic surgery for her eye, but also put the money, some of the money back into the orphanage as well. I went on to write another 2 books. It's about a boy, his love of music, and how he finds friends through his love of music. I did that for crowdfunding, so I went on to a crowdfunding site and I got people to pay for the book before I even published it. And I actually got the book paid for in full before I published it. However, that book didn't take off at all and didn't sell. So I had lots and lots of copies of that book that I just had to, in the end, throw away or give away. I gave most of it to the local kinders so that they can give it to their kids. And I threw almost half of it away. It's really hard to write a book. I mean, people did warn me when I started writing my first book. They said, it's really competitive to write a children's book. If you don't have the backing of the big guys behind you, you're not going to succeed. My first book was really lucky; it succeeded. My second book about the orphaned girl was okay. I did raise a lot of money because we did a lot of other things, and then my third and my fourth book did not succeed at all, and that was the last of the books. I kind of had enough by then. I've done my books and time to move on. In the end, I thought the whole process was quite successful because I learned a lot from it. I learned many different things, not just writing a book, but distributing it, publishing it, printing it offshore, importing it in. I also had really good personal growth because when I was interviewed by the Herald Sun, I invited my parents and my brother over, and they told a lot of the stories, filled in a lot of gaps that I didn't know about because I only heard figments of the escape and the journey and the story in bits and pieces that I had to string together because it was too traumatic, and Mum and Dad didn't want to talk to me about it when I was little, but also I guess they didn't want to relive it. But this interview brought it all out and brought a lot of emotions out, and I learned a lot of history and a lot of my own story through the interviews. I also thought it was successful because it made a difference to a lot of people's lives. I've moved on from the book to becoming a public speaker, so I speak to a lot of schools and corporate events. But also with the second book, because we produced the cards out of that also led to my business, Sketchmill, which is a card and print business that I still run. And that was like a byproduct of the book, which I wouldn't have experienced if I didn't write the books. Anyway, that's my short little story on how I got my book published. Thanks so much for listening. I hope that helped a little bit, or at least it was a little bit interesting. And yeah, if you have any comments down below, I've also got a link to my refugee story that was interviewed by my daughter at the end screen or up on the cards. And I look forward to talking to you again and telling you more stories. Please subscribe, hit that bell notification button so that you can get notified when I publish a new video. And yeah, thanks for listening. Really appreciate it.